a German Tiger tank driver had to change gears roughly every 150 meters. Think about what that means. In the middle of a battle, you're inside a steel box weighing 57 metric tons, the apex predator of the Eastern Front. Your 88mm cannon can kill a Soviet T-34 from over 2 kilometers away. Enemy shells bounce off your armor like stones. You are, for all intents and purposes, invincible. But your greatest enemy isn't outside the tank. It's right under your feet. And it's about to break. The official name was the Maybach Olvar 401216 Gearbox, a marvel of pre-selector hydraulic engineering with 8 forward gears. It was more like a Swiss watch than a piece of military hardware. And here's the part nobody likes to talk about. This transmission was originally designed for a 30-ton tank, and the Tiger weighed almost double that. Every command you give, every turn of the tiller bars, sends a shock wave of immense force through a system that was never meant to handle it. Imagine putting the gearbox of a sports car into a fully loaded dump truck, and then driving it through mud, up hills, under artillery fire. You can feel the strain through the floor plates. You can smell the faint, acrid scent of overheating transmission fluid. The mechanics warned the high command. The initial field reports from the 502nd Heavy Panzer Battalion were filled with catastrophic failures. But the propaganda machine needed a monster, and the Tiger was it. So, the reports were filed away. The production lines kept moving. On paper, the specifications were terrifying. A 700 horsepower V12 engine, armor up to 120 millimeters thick. But the battlefield isn't paper. It's earth, it's friction, it's physics. And physics always wins. The crews knew. They developed a dark joke. The best way to destroy a Tiger was to give it to a new driver and point him at a steep hill. Because while the gun could defeat an entire platoon, the transmission could be defeated by a simple 15-degree slope, a gentle incline that any Sherman tank could climb without a second thought. For you in the driver's seat, it was a moment of pure terror, more terrifying than an anti-tank gun. The engine screams, the hull groans, and then a high-pitched whine, a sound that means your 57-ton Fortress is now just a stationary steel coffin. Of the 1,347 Tigers built, historical analysis suggests more were lost to mechanical failure and abandonment than were ever destroyed by the enemy. And they were found broken down in fields, stuck in mud, or simply left on the side of a road, their crews forced to flee. The engineers knew about this fatal flaw from the very beginning. The question is, why did they build it anyway? They built it anyway because they were given an impossible choice, a choice between engineering reality and the Führer's ambition. The answer begins not on a battlefield, but in a design office in Stuttgart, with a man you might know for very different reasons. Ferdinand Porsche. Yes, that Porsche. Before the sports cars, he was one of Hitler's favorite engineers, and he had a radical vision for the new heavy tank. It wouldn't use a conventional transmission at all. Instead, 2 V10 air-cooled gasoline engines would power electric generators. These generators would then drive electric motors connected to the sprockets. No gearbox, no clutch, just a smooth, stepless application of power. On paper, it was genius, a design from 20 years in the future. But this was 1942, and the future had a problem. The design required enormous amounts of copper for the electric motors and wiring. Copper was a critical war material already in desperately short supply. The German High Command knew this. They had another, safer design from a rival company, Henschel. It was conventional. It was less complex. It used a mechanical transmission. On April 20th, 1942, Hitler's birthday, both prototypes were demonstrated for him at his headquarters in Rastenburg. Porsche's electric tank, the VK 45.01P, failed almost immediately. It repeatedly broke down, bogged down, and overheated. The Henschel design, the VK 45.01H, performed adequately. The choice seemed obvious. And here's the part the official histories often gloss over. Porsche was so confident his design would be chosen that his factory had already produced 100 chassis without a contract. 100 useless steel hulls. The political fallout was immense, so a compromise was made, a fatal compromise. Henschel would build the tank, but it would use the turret that Porsche had already designed and built for his failed prototype. Think about that for a moment. You're taking the heaviest single component from one failed design and forcing it onto another. The Henschel hull was now saddled with a turret it was never designed to carry. The weight ballooned. The original target was 45 tons. The final Tiger I weighed 57 tons. And the transmission chosen for the lighter tank was never upgraded. That was the Maybach Ulvar 401216, the pre-selector gearbox from Act 1, a beautiful, intricate piece of machinery. To operate it, you, the driver, would first select the desired gear with a small lever. Then, you would depress the clutch pedal and a complex hydraulic system would execute the shift for you. It was designed to make shifting a heavy vehicle easier. But inside that casing was a delicate dance of hydraulic clutches, brake bands, and planetary gear sets. It was a watchmaker's solution to a blacksmith's problem. Every single gear change sent a 57-ton shock through components designed for a much lighter load, and you had to make a lot of changes. 8 gears forward, 4 in reverse. To make a simple 90-degree turn, you needed to shift down, apply power to one track, brake the other, and then shift back up. All while shells are exploding around you. The crews were given 2-day training courses on how to operate it without breaking it. 2 days. They were told never to let the engine RPM drop below 2,500. They were warned never to turn too sharply on hard ground. They were given a list of rules as long as your arm. But war doesn't follow rules. The Soviet T-34, by contrast, had a simple, brutal crash gearbox. It was loud. It was difficult to shift. A driver often needed a mallet to force it into gear. But it was built from massive, tough components. If it broke, you could often fix it in a field with a wrench and a hammer. If the Tiger's transmission broke, you needed a specialized workshop, a clean room, and a team of factory-trained mechanics. You didn't have that on the plains of Kursk. So when that high-pitched whine started, when the tank shuddered to a halt, the crew had one option: get out, run, and leave a multi-million Reichsmark weapon for the enemy to capture or for your own side to destroy. The engineers at Maybach knew this. They were not fools. They were painfully aware of the gearbox's limitations. They were already working on a replacement, a far superior, fully automatic hydraulic transmission that could handle the Tiger's immense weight and torque with ease. A design that could have solved the Tiger's greatest weakness. So, if they had a fix, why did almost none of the 1,347 Tigers ever receive it? They had a fix, so why did almost none of the 1,347 Tigers ever receive it? The answer is brutally simple: time. They had run out of time. The improved transmission, the Maybach AK7200, was a fully automatic hydraulic system. It was everything the Ulvar gearbox was not: robust, reliable, capable of handling the Tiger's immense torque. But it arrived too late. By the time it was ready for mass production in late 1944, Allied bombers had systematically dismantled German industrial capacity. Factories were rubble, supply lines were severed. Albert Speer, the Minister of Armaments, had made a desperate calculation. It was better to produce 2 flawed tanks that could fight today than 1 perfect tank that might be ready next month. Think about what that means in practice. You have the cure, but the hospital is on fire. So you keep sending soldiers to the front with a known fatal condition. The crews on the Eastern Front didn't know about bombing campaigns or production quotas. They only knew the reality in front of them. The mud, the infamous Russian Rasputitsa, a sea of glue-like soil that could swallow a 57-ton tank whole. When your transmission failed here, your problems had only just begun. You see, you can't just tow a Tiger. It's not a car. To recover one, you needed another vehicle of immense power. The Germans had the Famo half-track, their heaviest recovery vehicle. It weighed 18 tons. Official doctrine stated that to pull a single bogged-down Tiger, you needed 3 Famos, chained together. 3 vehicles, 15 crewmen, all exposed to enemy fire, trying to rescue 1 broken tank. And here's where it gets worse. Often, 3 wasn't enough. The strain was so great that the Famos would dig themselves into the earth, or their own engines would burn out. The solution was the Berge Panther, a Panther tank chassis converted into a dedicated armored recovery vehicle. It was a beast, but they never built enough of them. For every 10 Tigers in a battalion, regulations required 2 Berge Panthers. Most units were lucky if they had one. So what happens when your multi-million Reichsmark superweapon is stuck? The maintenance crew arrives, and this is the part nobody ever shows in the propaganda reels. To even access the transmission, they first had to unbolt and remove the massive turret. A 5-ton crane was needed for that. Then they had to remove the armored roof plate of the hull. Only then could they get to the 1-ton gearbox. In a fully equipped workshop, the job took a team of mechanics 25 hours. 25 hours. In a frozen field under artillery threat with improvised tools? It could take days, if it was even possible. The official maintenance logs, the ones that survived the war, tell a story the High Command ignored. They are a litany of failure. Planetary gear set shattered. Hydraulic pump failure. Final drive sheared. Read that again. Final drive sheared. That means the force was so great, it snapped a solid steel shaft half a meter thick. This wasn't a flaw. It was a systemic breakdown. The tank was consuming itself. By the Battle of Kursk in July 1943, the 503rd Heavy Panzer Battalion reported that out of 45 Tigers, only 14 were combat-ready on the first day. The rest were waiting for repair. They hadn't even been hit by the enemy. They simply broke down on the way to the fight. The Tiger was an apex predator that was too fragile to leave its cage. The crews loved their machine. They felt invincible inside it. But they also knew its secret weakness. They knew that soft ground was more dangerous than a Soviet anti-tank gun. They knew the high-pitched whine that signaled the end. And when that sound came, when the tank shuddered to a halt and the recovery vehicles couldn't reach them, the crew was given a final terrible order. An order that sealed the fate of hundreds of these steel beasts. They were told that if the tank could not be recovered, it must not fall into enemy hands. They were issued demolition charges, specially shaped charges designed to destroy their own vehicle from the inside. And the very men who polished its cannon and patched its tracks were now tasked with its execution. The greatest single cause of Tiger tank losses wasn't the T-34. It wasn't the British Sherman Firefly or the Allied Air Forces. It was self-destruction. The dark irony is that the Tiger's thick armor, the very thing that made it so feared, also made it too heavy to save. It became its own tombstone. The Tiger became its own tombstone, and you, the crewman, were ordered to be the undertaker. Think about that order. You are handed 3-kilogram demolition charges. You are shown exactly where to place them. On the engine block, on the gun breech, on the final drives. You are instructed to destroy the very machine that has been your shield, your home, and your weapon for months. This is the part of the story that is never carved in stone on war memorials. This is the human cost. The men tasked with this impossible job were the mechanics of the Werkstattkompanie, the workshop company. They were the unsung heroes of the panzer divisions. While the tank aces got the medals, these men worked 20-hour days in frozen mud, their hands raw and bleeding, trying to resurrect dead machines. They were master craftsmen forced to work in an abattoir. Their diaries, the few that survive, don't speak of glory. They speak of exhaustion. They list serial numbers of broken gearboxes. They describe the metallic smell of sheared steel and burnt hydraulic fluid. And here's where the official narrative begins to fray. The propaganda showed invincible steel titans. The mechanics' log showed a fleet of fragile, chronically ill patients. One of the most famous Tiger commanders, Otto Carius, wrote about this reality in his memoir, Tigers in the Mud. He doesn't recount epic duels as much as he recounts endless soul-crushing breakdowns. He describes his entire company being halted, not by the Red Army, but by a series of transmission failures. He tells of spending more time outside the tank, digging it out of the mud, than inside it fighting. Read that again. And the most decorated tank crews spent most of their time as laborers. The psychological pressure was immense. Imagine knowing that your 57-ton fortress, the most feared weapon on the battlefield, could be defeated by a patch of soft ground. You listen to the engine's every sound, not for the enemy, but for the high-pitched whine of a dying gearbox. It was a constant, gnawing fear. A fear that you would be stranded, helpless, a sitting target waiting for the artillery to find you. The crews developed a dark, intimate relationship with their machines. They knew every groan, every shudder. They learned unofficial tricks to keep the transmission from shattering. Never turn on a slope. Always double clutch when the fluid is cold. Change gears as if you were handling a newborn child. These rules weren't in any manual. They were battlefield wisdom, passed from veteran to rookie in hushed tones. They were the crew's desperate attempt to tame a beast that was actively trying to destroy itself. Because they knew a secret the propaganda office would never admit. The greatest threat wasn't the T-34 shell coming towards you. It was the sound of your own tank dying beneath you. And when it died and the recovery vehicles couldn't come, you were left with that final, terrible order. The charges are in your hands. You can hear the rumble of approaching enemy tanks. Your comrades are looking at you. You have seconds to decide. Do you follow the order and destroy your protector? Or do you run and leave the enemy the greatest prize on the battlefield? The demolition charge is in your hands, the enemy closing in. The historical record is painfully clear. Most of the time, you ran. You left the greatest prize on the battlefield for your enemy to find, and find it they did. On April 21st, 1943, near Jebel Jaffa in Tunisia, soldiers of the British 48th Royal Tank Regiment captured Tiger 131 almost completely intact. It was the first one the Western Allies had ever recovered. They shipped it back to England with the urgency of a state secret. Engineers swarmed over it. They took it apart, piece by delicate piece, like surgeons conducting an autopsy. Their final report, once classified, reads less like a military analysis and more like a study of a beautiful, complex, but deeply flawed creature. They admired the armor. They marveled at the precision of the Zeiss optics. But they were utterly baffled by the complexity. The interlocking road wheels were an elegant solution to ground pressure, and a maintenance nightmare that froze solid with mud and ice. The Maybach engine was a powerhouse that consumed fuel so fast its operational range was barely 100 kilometers on rough terrain. And the transmission, it was a work of art that shattered if you looked at it the wrong way. And here's the beautiful irony. The Allies didn't copy the Tiger. They learned from its mistakes. They understood that Germany was trying to build a perfect, unbeatable weapon, a scalpel. But they realized war isn't won with scalpels. It's won with hammers. The American Sherman M4 tank could be produced in under 40,000 man-hours. The Tiger one required over 300,000. Think about what that means. For every single Tiger that rolled off the assembly line, the Allies could field nearly 8 Shermans. 8. The Tiger was a masterpiece of engineering, a monument to ambition, but it was the wrong monument for the wrong war. Its true legacy is not found in the battles it won, but in the philosophy it represented. A relentless pursuit of perfection, even when good enough, was the only thing that mattered. The crews loved the Tiger. They believed in its power. They were blinded by its terrible beauty. But they forgot a fundamental truth. The god of war is not technology. It is logistics. It is numbers. It is the simple, brutal ability to replace what you lose. This is the part nobody talks about. Germany lost the war not for a lack of genius, but perhaps because of it. The Tiger tank sits in a museum today, a silent steel ghost, a testament to a flawed masterpiece. It forces us to ask a difficult question. What is the true cost of perfection?